This is the WJTS News. In the news tonight, wanted Crawford County man captured. Huntingburg man facing charges. A Gibson County registered sex offender is behind bars. Kurt Guxel will be in with sports, and our WJTS Informed segment continues with Du Bois County Soil and Water Conservation District Director Judy Brown. On our Monday with the Mayor segment, we speak with Rockport Mayor Don Winkler. All to come on WJTS TV News. Good evening. I'm Jenna Schaffer with the news. A Crawford County man wanted in connection to an armed robbery is behind bars. Crawford County Sheriff deputies arrested 22-year-old Austin Wilson on Friday. Deputies began looking for Wilson on January 20th in connection to an armed robbery. Wilson was booked into the Crawford County Jail and charged with burglary while armed with a deadly weapon, armed robbery, criminal confinement with a deadly weapon, theft over $750, and interference with the reporting of a crime. The Crawford County Sheriff's Office wants to thank the community and the Indiana State Police for helping them take Wilson into custody. A Huntingburg man is facing charges after fleeing from police and leaving a woman injured. Huntingburg police tried pulling over 20-year-old Austin Williams for a traffic violation on Main and 10th Street early Sunday morning. After Williams refused to stop, police began chasing him down several roads in Huntingburg. The chase ended after the vehicle went airborne on Brett Street. Police say Williams then fled the scene on foot and left an injured female passenger behind. The passenger was taken to Memorial Hospital for treatment. Williams was taken into custody 12 hours later. Williams is booked into the Du Bois County Security Center and charged with resisting law enforcement, criminal recklessness, reckless driving, and aggressive driving. A Gibson County registered sex offender is behind bars. Gibson County Sheriff deputies arrested 42-year-old Roger Wayne Condor Jr. on Wednesday after learning he was not living at the address provided to the Indiana Sex Offender Registry. Deputies tracked him down to a residence near Oakland City. Police say Condor tried fleeing before taking him into custody. Condor was booked into the Gibson County Jail on a $750 bond and charged with resisting, fleeing law enforcement, failure to register as a sexually violent predator, and failure to possess a valid Indiana ID as a sexually violent predator. No injuries or damage are reported after a cooking incident at a Huntingburg apartment. Huntingburg firefighters responded to reports of a fire alarm going off at the lofts on 1900 Medical Art Drive around 3 p.m. on Saturday. Firefighters report seeing smoke coming from apartment 3 when they arrived. According to firefighters, the apartment occupant accidentally placed a styrofoam container on a heating stovetop unit. The occupant removed the container, but the fire alarm was already going off. Firefighters were on the scene for about 20 minutes with 5 trucks and 13 firefighters. An Indiana University associate professor arrested last summer while protesting against a farmers market vendor is filing a civil lawsuit against the city of Bloomington. Attorneys for Kara Cadu recently filed a tort claim seeking compensation of at least $500,000. This filing signals that she may sue over her July arrest at the Bloomington Community Farmers Market. According to the Herald Times, Cadu was arrested on a preliminary charge of misdemeanor trespass after holding a protest sign in front of a vendor's booth. Prosecutors did not charge her in the incident. The Tell City Police Department starts accepting applications for the 2020 Tell City Citizen Police Academy next month. The Academy offers an inside look about what goes on behind the scenes, and you can see the day-to-day operations at the police department. By participating, citizens will get to see what officers go through every day. Applications for the 10-week no-cost course opens in February. Indiana's unemployment has remained the same for nearly 4 months in a row. According to the Indiana Department of Workforce Development, that state's unemployment has stayed at 3.2% since September. This is still below the national rate of 3.5%. Indiana's labor had a net increase of 1,948 over the previous month. This was because of a decrease of 3 unemployed residents and a 1,951 increase in employed residents. Indiana's total labor force, which includes both Hoosiers employed and those seeking employment, stands at 3.38 million. The state's 64.4% labor force participation rate remains above the national rate of 63.2%. The Jasper Wastewater Department is closing a few streets around the city for sanitary sewer repairs this week. Closures on the following streets are closed: west side of 3rd Street and Newton Street intersection, between the south side of 4th Street and Clay Street intersection, the north side of 2nd Street and Clay Street intersection. These closures will last until Friday or until the needed repairs are complete. The DuBois County Park Board is starting the new year off on a high note with discussions about expanding the DuBois County Park. Board members had their first meeting of the year at DuBois County Fairgrounds Clover Pavilion last Thursday. DuBois County Park Board President Christine Pryor says they have wanted to make these expansions for years.
Well, we looked at it for a while and we have not actually done any expansions or improvements to the park since the 1990s. So it's been 25 years since we've done anything. And like I said, in 2018, we really looked at what kind of improvements we wanted to do. So when we came up with the plan, we really looked at it that it's probably going to be maybe a 10, 12-year plan, but it gives us some direction. It also lets us know where everything is laid out so that as we are making those improvements, we don't do something in 2020 that in 2025 we're going to have to tear up.
Pryor says this plan has a lot of moving parts and explains what this expansion will entail.
It will add 14 campsites, and then it will also add some trails to connect the current fishing lake to the campsites, and then it will also lay the foundation for where we're going to put some tent camping, because while we do have tent camping here at the park, they're kind of not really laid out well. It's kind of, this is the area that we allow camping for tents.
Pryor tells us applying and submitting a land and water conservation grant application will make this project possible.
It is a $250,000 grant that we have to match with $250,000. So we picked out items. We knew a bathroom and campsites were some of the things that we wanted to do first. So we chose the restroom that we're going to be doing near the fishing lake, and then the 14 campsites.
In order to move forward with this project, both the Indiana Department of Natural Resources and the National Park Service must approve the application. Pryor says they expect to get grant approval by the end of March or early April. Once the DNR and National Park Service approve the application, the Parks Board will start seeking contractor bids. The DuBois County Parks Board meeting is on Monday, April 27th at 5 p.m. in the DuBois County 4-H Fairgrounds Clover Pavilion. After this, the board and the DuBois County 4-H Council will gather for their annual joint meeting at 6 p.m. The Indiana Senate is looking to save taxpayers money. With more, here's State Senator Mark Messmer.
Hello, this is State Senator Mark Messmer with this week's Messmer Report. This week, the Indiana Senate passed House Bill 1007, which will use cash to pay for 6 university capital improvement projects, saving taxpayers $135 million in future interest costs. This bill now goes to the governor for his signature. My Democrat colleagues tried to make hay out of this bill through their failed amendments addressing teacher pay. Indiana teachers should be very wary of what they tried to do. It's not responsible to raid retired teachers' pensions in order to try to free up money for current teacher salaries. It's not responsible to push out a payoff of that teacher pension fund until the 2040s that would ultimately cost taxpayers an additional $2.1 billion, and it's not responsible to use one-time surplus money in a way that would end up raising the cost of all future budgets. Passing House Bill 1007, as it is written, was the right thing to do for Hoosier taxpayers. It pays off debt, it doesn't push a due date out, it pays in full now, it doesn't incur $135 million in interest costs, and it frees up real money that can be dedicated to ongoing needs. Teacher pay is important, and that's why we increased K-12 funding by $763 million in our last budget. With that said, we haven't even seen the full impact of teacher raises that came from that budget increase. State budgeting requires discipline, but with 50% of our current general fund, 50 cents out of every dollar, going to K-12 education, we have demonstrated where our priorities lie. And we will continue to prioritize funding for our K-12 schools in the future so local school boards can continue to increase teachers' pay. Good government means making disciplined choices, and that's what the Indiana Republicans have demonstrated through our support of House Bill 1007 this session. As always, feel free to contact my office directly with your questions and concerns at senator.messmer@iga.in.gov or by phone at 800-382-9467. This has been State Senator Mark Messmer with this week's Messmer Report.
Thank you, Senator. We'll take a look at your weather forecast when we come back on 18 WJTS News.